Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Empower Your Menopause. It's Coach James and Coach Julie here, and today we're going to walk you through a topic that I think is a little bit of a mystery to some people, and that is the role of a health coach in menopause. I remember someone actually said to me last year, what the heck is a health coach anyway? And I thought, that's probably not as common as we think in the general population because we're so involved in health coaching because it's what we do. So today we thought we'd have a little conversation around what health coaching is and how a health coach can actually play an important role through your perimenopause and menopause journey. So last week we talked a little bit about what menopause actually is, and so today we're going to jump right into this topic. So, James, if somebody asks you what is health coaching, what do you usually say to them?
Well, first of all, before we go into what health coaching is, I just wanted to say that it's nice to be here with the sound clearer than what it was last week, and with an image where people can see us.
Yeah.
So it's great to be moving on into episode 2. Then, so what is a health coach? Your question, Julie. Coming back to that, I suppose the idea of a health coach is that we support people in a better healthful journey. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean us telling people what to do. So we're not actually that prescriptive, if you like.
Hmm.
But it's more about helping people self-manage, work out what works for them, and getting them to commit to some changes towards healthier habits that will better serve their lifestyle, whatever that choice may be. So obviously there are health coaches who work in all kinds of different ranges of the health spectrum. You'll get some health coaches who will help with weight loss. You'll get other people who will help with sporting endeavour. You'll get other people like ourselves who help with menopause. So a really wide range of things there. But I think for me the key thing is support from us for a client so they can build up their own self-efficacy, so they can map out their own health journey and work out what works for them to make it as highly personalised as possible. One of the things that tends to happen a lot in the healthcare industry, I think, is that there's a one size fits all element to a lot of programs that you see. Hello, all those cheap things that you see on the internet. It's you that I'm talking about, where there's an assumption that because what works for one person is going to work for everybody else, and that is not actually the case. Some people will be better at burning carbohydrates. Some people will be better at burning fat. So when people say to you, should I be on a high carb or a low carb diet? The answer is it depends. But how do you work out which one it is? And I think that's the kind of support that health coaches give. I think when it comes to the menopause specifically, there's a lot more things that can be done around wading through the information. So I kind of tell people like Julie and I do the research so you don't have to do it. So we can wade through all that stuff and find out the best advice to pass on to our clients based on what we see across that wide range of people that we deal with on a daily basis. So yes, there's some self-efficacy there, but yes, I think also there's an element of knowledge of kind of what you need to be working on, what are the areas of lifestyle that you need to work on to help in the journey through perimenopause and menopause, and also relying on some of that gained knowledge through either personal experience from somebody like yourself. Obviously, I don't have the personal experience of going through it. I've got lived experience of living with people who've gone through menopause, and so drawing all that knowledge together to be able to advise people on what may be the best place to start the research into working out their own personal journey.
Sure. Well, that's great. And to piggyback on that, I think one of the things sometimes people think, oh, coaches are for sporting teams, or coaches are for professional athletes, or coaches are for the C-suite in the corporate world, right? The CEO and the CFO and those folks. But really, coaching, I think, is a great tool that not enough people take advantage of because we don't necessarily see our blind spots I mean, that's the definition of a blind spot, right? And we don't understand all there is to know about the issue. When we're very emotionally attached, having that outside sort of more objective view, I think, is really important if we want to make real progress and make significant changes. And during this phase of life, especially because there's so many changes happening already, when we come in with a preconceived notion of what it is or what it's supposed to be, having that sort of neutral party there to guide us back down, from, and I can say this from having experienced it, those emotional periods and those roller coaster days that we're on, with our various symptoms that we experience. So having someone who's knowledgeable, not only from the science perspective and the nutrition perspective and the lifestyle perspective, but also from the emotional and mindset perspective, who can, because we're not therapists, but we can have conversations and ask different questions than a lot of people would. So you go to a personal trainer, you get something prescriptive, and we're both personal trainers as well, so we understand. We put together a program. When you work with a health coach, it's done in a very bespoke manner, because, as James said, we're all different. We respond to things differently. We have different needs. We have different lives and lifestyles. We're coming from a different place. And even just defining health, what does health look like? What does vibrant health look like to each individual? That may be something that varies from person to person. So I think health coaching is a great tool to help us create those definitions for ourselves and set some actual realistically achievable goals, and really tap into that best part of ourselves that we miss when we're trying to squeeze ourselves into a program rather than adapting things to fit our lives. Does
Yeah, I
that
think
make
the
sense?
absolutely, and I think you touched on it a little bit there. Health is a really rounded subject. It's not just about staying away from having a cold or keeping yourself physically fit. There's a physical element to it, there's a mental element to it, there's an emotional, there's an existential, there's a
Mm-hmm.
relational element to it, there's an environmental element to it. And so health coaching can help increase knowledge and understanding and support around all those areas. And when I read through that list and I think to myself, what are the changes that are taking place in menopause? Well, we know the physical changes. We know the difference in physiology of maybe some women add weight around the middle. Some people feel as though their arms get bigger. There are physical changes that take place that people are concerned about. That then can create mental challenges, yeah, because nobody wants to feel as though they're getting old. Lord knows I
Right.
don't want to, right? So there's a mental challenge there of how do I face the future and the fact that I'm getting old without that becoming a millstone around me psychologically and emotionally. And so it's really important. Existential. Where's my place in the world? Many of the women that we see maybe at that stage of life where kids are getting older, so the kids are getting self-dependent. Their parents are either passing on or are now infirm, so they don't have that same relationship there. Relationships, interpersonal relationships with their partners can change as well. And suddenly, what's my place in the world in this changing environment where I've had maybe 40 or 50 years where things have been physically, emotionally on an upward trajectory, and suddenly it starts to taper out, and so where do we fit there? And then obviously relationships, it's really hard. Many of our clients may have things like brain fog, or they may find they're moving quicker from 0 to 100 because their emotions are being challenged by what's going on. And so relationships change as well. How does your
Mm-hmm.
relationship fit in with your partner or your other half at this point in time? And so I think all those things play into the challenges. So those 6 areas of vibrant health, they play into the challenges and match the challenges that women face at this time in their life. And I think that is where a lot of the support from people like you and I can come in.
Yeah, for sure. And I know a lot of A lot of clients have come in specifically saying, I need to lose weight. I just, that's the problem, is my weight, without understanding all of these other elements. And when we can make progress in that area, it it flows over into the other areas that you mentioned, and that's a beautiful thing to see, because all of a sudden confidence starts to grow. And when I moved to Italy, I remember saying, oh, I have to decide what I want to be when I grow up, because I had left behind my career, and I didn't, we define ourselves by our roles rather than who we are oftentimes. And so discovering, who are we now? And because this is such a big piece of our lives, it being able to reinvent yourself and start tackling all of those someday things that you wanted to do when you didn't have the time with kids at home. And and again, that can be a challenge when you're dealing with these symptoms and various changes that are going on in your body and mind. So when you take a more holistic view, we can look at, how does this all fit together now? How can we help you get from here to there? What's the gap? And what kind of support do you need? Because maybe your weight is actually a symptom of other things being out of alignment in your life. Um, and I think that's, one of my favorite analogies was trying to cycle last year up hills. I was never good at cycling up hills, and I have 5 bikes of my own, 6 now. And I remember telling Ian, I'm just not going to cycle anymore, because we live in Italy and there isn't anywhere to ride here where it isn't hilly and mountainous. And he started looking at the bikes, because I had been an avid cyclist for a number of years. And he started looking at my bikes and realized that I had the completely wrong gears for cycling. All of that time, I was blaming myself. I'm no good at this. I can't do this. But I was using the wrong tools. I was using the wrong gears. And as soon as he put the proper gears on my bike, I made the longest climb I've ever made, even after all those years that I was cycling. I made the longest climb I've ever made, not being in as good a shape, not being as fit, and trained as I was back then. And it just really was it was such an aha moment for me. And I remember that in having many of those moments in working with my coach, because he was able to advise me and say, well, have you thought of it from this perspective? What if we change this? What if we look at it from that? What if we fix this, work on this first, and then see what happens? And usually that was the better way, because we tend to have that tunnel vision, right? We have our blinders on. It's all about this thing, and I have to fix this thing, when the real root cause of that thing may be 5 steps in the other direction.
Sure, absolutely. And that is why we work across a number of different areas with clients. We work across what you eat, because nutrition is important. There are things nutritionally that you can add into your diet or change about your diet that will have an effect, whether it be on your symptoms, whether the symptoms are physiological ones like hot flushes or weight gain, or whether they're psychological ones, things like brain fog, things like that. There are nutritional interventions that you can do there that can help. There are things that we can do from a movement perspective. We know, because we've read the science, that women over 50 tend to suffer from osteoporosis. That is a direct relation to menopause and the fall in estrogen levels. And so adding in some strength training, which will help renew bones, build bones, can help protect against that. We know how much relaxation plays a part, and that lifestyle element of trying to sort of like make sure that we're rested and refreshed, whether that be through meditation or drawing or knitting or whatever it may be, finding a way to actually dial down some of the stresses that are in life. And then of course sleep as well, because sleep is where all the good stuff happens. It's where you repair things, it's where you digest properly, it's where your hormones are rebuilt. And then on top of all that, there is the mindset element to menopause as well. I'm constantly surprised at this one study that I read that is from South America that shows that in societies where a woman aging is seen as a value proposition, so her value increases the older she gets to society and the tribe, because she has knowledge that she can pass on and a wealth of experience that she can pass on, and she suddenly becomes an elder, and that elder is treated with respect and love, that their symptoms are much lower than what they would be in the West, whereby, and I know things have been changing over the last few years and hopefully will continue to change, but we touched on this last week. My mum's generation would talk about menopause as if it was some kind of crazy disease that they weren't even supposed to talk
Hmm.
about to people. And Western society tends to have a notion and a direction of throwing women 40, 50 and above on the scrap heap. You even look in Hollywood, which is probably one of the most liberal places in the Western world, whereby all these wonderful actresses complain about the lack of roles or strong roles for women 40, 50, 60 years old because screenwriters aren't writing them. And so for me, the switch of this is all a load of crap that I'm having to deal with to actually this is an opportunity to grow and further myself is a really, really important one. And I understand that that's a difficult place to be sitting in if you're listening to this right now and you're thinking, God, I've got hot flushes. I'm not sleeping. I'm arguing with my husband. I got from 0 to 100 with the kids and we're constantly arguing. I can't keep up at work. I don't feel as I can organise anything. To me, suddenly saying, well, just think yourself better. It's not that simple, obviously.
No.
And so apologies if I made it sound as though I was simplifying it there or not. But I think trying to, with the support of somebody, look at this as a journey of empowerment, which is why we call the podcast Empower Your Menopause, um,
Yeah.
is a really, really important facet of the menopause journey, which I think is often underlooked. And it's underlooked a lot as well by, if we go back to the differences between health coaches and other professions, doctors do an amazing job, there's no doubt about it. But if you come from a place like I do in the UK, where healthcare is nationalised, you book in to see the doctor, whatever's wrong with you, for a regular consultation, and your consultation is 12 and a half minutes.
Yeah.
Where can that doctor who is pressured by times, who's pressured by everything else, find the time to be able to accurately talk somebody through what's happening to them during the menopause transition, especially when many doctors aren't even trained in this area at all. And so it all gets condensed really,
Exactly.
really quickly. It often gets thrown out to medication. And I say this many, many times, HRT absolutely has a value in a woman's journey if it's appropriate, as do antidepressants if they're appropriate. But more often than not, people go and that's the first cause of action because that's how Western medicine has been conditioned to work, particularly in areas like in the UK, whereby finances are low, time's compressed, and therefore
Hmm.
it's often sticking a plaster over it. What health coaching does, the flip side of that is, if we do a one-to-one with our clients, we've got either an hour or 30 minutes or 45 minutes, however long they book in for, to actually go through what's happening, to take a proper symptom history, to find out what the backstory is. What happened to
Hmm.
you. What was your mum's journey like? What was your grandmother's journey like? How does that reflect? Is there a hereditary element to what's going on here? And so
Yeah.
all those kind of things can be discussed in a health coaching call that you're probably not going to get that time afforded to you by your regular general practitioner doctor. Unfortunately, as I said, doctors do an amazing job. It's not their fault. It's the constraints of the systems that they tend to work in.
Yeah. And as you said, James, the doctors are often not trained in menopause, so they don't have the tools at their disposal other than general information they may or may not know. And a lot of times, menopause symptoms can present themselves as mental health issues because of the changes in the hormones and the brain fog and some of the symptoms that come along with it. So, and one of the other things that a health coach can do, obviously with your permission and the right conditions, is be the bridge and work with your healthcare team if that's something that you choose to do. So it helps to give you a much more holistic approach to your care and to your journey. And I've done that before with some clients, to be able to say, okay, here's what I'm getting, run things past so that the care is coordinated. And especially if there are medications involved, because we're not experts in that sort of thing, and that's not something we can advise on or counsel on. But oftentimes those medications have side effects that may not be reported back to the doctor. And so when you work with a health coach, there are certain things that we can help support you through, as James said, that your doctor might not. And 12 and a half minutes is pretty generous, because I know over here it's more like 8 minutes. And yeah, and the U.S., even though it's privatized healthcare mostly in the U.S., it's really not any better. Doctors are paid by the insurance companies for how many people they see in a day, not for the quality of the care that they provide or the
Hmm.
quality of health outcomes for their patients. And so it's an unfortunate state of our healthcare systems in the West. And that's another reason why it's important to take these things into our own hands, but in the right way and with the right support. Because as I said last week, when you look for all that free information on the internet, you're going to get exactly what you pay for. And jumping from thing to thing to thing isn't going to really help you. So being able to embrace the changes from a place of curiosity. I know sometimes I still look in the mirror and say, when did that start? Because it's a journey up until our last day on earth, and being able to get the right tools, to have the people to support us. None of us needs to do this alone. And as women, I know a lot of times we're raised to think that we have to take care of everybody and everything else first, put our own needs last. And oftentimes we never get the time to look after ourselves. So it accumulates over time. And then we find ourselves one day feeling like, oh, I just can't do this anymore. And that's an important time to get the support that you need, because you shouldn't go it alone. I don't usually should on people, but that's an important should. You should not
Yeah,
go it alone.
yeah, and I'd argue that it's never too late to start a health journey,
Right.
right? So you can start
Absolutely.
60, 70, 80. You can still improve your health outcomes. I think sometimes what the challenges are is that because women are so busy and have so much stuff going on, it's
Right.
often when things have already started to switch over to being in, I don't like the term particularly, but being slightly more dysfunctional from a health point of view, that help is sought. And really,
Right.
trying to look ahead in your journey and saying,
Mhm.
right, I'm 40, I know the stats now are showing that I will likely start to be in perimenopause. What can I start doing now before things need a lot more attention? So what can I put in place now? How can I start to change my diet? How can I start to change my sleep routine? How can I start to make sure that I'm getting a really good balance between being hyper focused on everything that I've got going on and having a flip side of rest and digest, whereby I'm taking some time out and I'm taking some time for self care. And I talk about this a lot. The more stuff you can deposit in your bank, your notional health bank,
Mm.
ahead of time, it's just like your savings account. The more you've got to withdraw when things start to change, or when things become more difficult. And the bone health one is a really key one there. Bone health, muscle health.
Yeah.
Both bones and muscles, they start to degrade quite quickly once we get to 40, 50, 60. And therefore, the stronger you are in advance of even being symptomatic, the better you will be when things do start to change over.
Yeah, it's that the ounce of prevention is definitely worth the pound of cure in this instance. And starting early makes such a difference. I wish I would have had these resources available when I started my journey, because there are some things I probably would have done very differently in my life had I known what might be ahead of me. And I think that's one of the things that we love to do, is to work with women who are starting into this journey. And as James said, the earlier the better, because you don't have to have a problem to be able to get yourself in a position where you've got that extra savings built up for yourself for future need. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, and we've we have had these kinds of successes with different clients, and we can share lots of success stories with you, but your success story is going to be yours alone. So it's important to decide, what is it that you would like to get out of your this phase of your life? What quality of life do you want to have as you get older? And what do you want to do with these golden years that are ahead of you?
Yeah. And I think the other thing that around that is, if you can't yet figure out what you want, and what you think your path's going to be, that is the ideal time to contact a health coach and
Yeah.
or speak to somebody and see what you can figure out, what is really, really important. We've got a training that we put many of our clients on when they first come to see us. It's called Mind Over Menopause. It's a free training that you can get at the website masteryourmenomindset.com. So that's a free training that is the first step there, which helps you create a vision and a journey moving forward, which may then give you some parameters and some kind of direction as to what exactly those golden years are going to look like, and prioritizing the stuff that's important to you. Because as we said, it's an individualized journey, and what might be important to you, Julie, might not be important to client A, B, C, or D.
Yeah.
And so trying to work out what is important for you is a really, really big facet of this. And I would argue that mindset element, that idea of having some thoughts about what goals are, is probably the first step anybody should take, whether they're working with an actual health coach or not.
For sure. It's that starting point in your GPS, right? You can't get to where you want to be if you don't know where you're going. And if you know where you're going, you need to know where you're starting from in order to get there. And health
Yeah.
coaching is that guide that will take you on the detours and get you back on course and help you navigate through that journey. And it's an exciting thing. It's an exciting thing to do. It's lovely to watch that progress and those success stories. And we'll drop the links to the Mind Over Menopause down in the show notes as well, so that we can you can jump in and try that out. And in I think that's about enough for today. Next time we're going to talk about a really fun topic that I know has come up lately for people I've spoken with, which is mastering self-sabotage.
Oh,
And especially at this phase of life when we're starting to change and we start craving things and we want to, we struggle. We'll help you get off the struggle bus and onto a path that will help you. So,
yeah.
any last thoughts to add there, James?
Well, I just think, first of all, the struggle bus is not a form of public transport that I would advise anybody takes. So helping people get off that in the next episode will be absolutely crucial. I think it's worth just wrapping up by talking a little bit again about the facets of health coaching. So it's people like myself and Julie who are here to help you come up with a personalised journey throughout whatever the speciality of that particular health coach is. So for us, it's the menopause transition. For the health coaches, it might be something else. I think it's a lot of support. It's a lot of specialised advice on that subject if you need that advice, if you want it. And it's helping kind of people put things into a way where there's an element of forward motion. That forward motion doesn't have to be at a million miles an hour, but it's taking the steps in the right direction towards change. It's helping you realize that patience is a really good quality within this journey, and working out helping you work out what works for you, because we are all individuals, and individualized healthcare or individualized health journeys are really, really important, because otherwise, this stuff would be easy.
Yeah, exactly. And if it was easy, there wouldn't be a $82 billion diet industry and who knows what else.
Exactly.
And yeah, and I would add to that, the last thought I would add to that is that you do have much more control over this phase of your life than you may think. And that's why it's important to learn what you need to learn to get the support you need to feel empowered through this entire journey. So I think we'll leave it there for today. Thanks for listening to Empower Your Menopause. It's Coach James and Coach Julie signing off for now, saying stay fabulous after 40.